instead of trying to fix the world, like I said, is just let it unfold and see what happens. Even though it seems chaotic, it's still, there's a purpose, there's an organization behind it, and really I think it just strives to do better, to be better, to sustain life.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Dawkins, and today I'm not only joined by the legend, Dr. Tracy Rush, but her other half, you guys. So we're really excited. Dr. Chris Rush is on the podcast officially. You will have an opportunity to, you can go ahead and comment below. Some of you guys are so excited. You're already excited that you want to have him back for another episode. You haven't even heard him talk yet. So you'll have a chance later in the podcast. But to the Rushes, how are you guys doing this afternoon?
Well. We are coming from Orlando because we're at a seminar that I spoke at yesterday. I taught at yesterday, so we're coming from Orlando.
That's amazing. I will say that I'm time stamping us a little bit, but the Olympics are kicking off now. My family's back on the porch right now watching the torches be carried and the boats coming in. It's really cool how they're doing it, but we believe that what we're talking about is just as important, if not more important, and that's why we're committed to it. So thank you guys for making time. All of our watchers, our listeners, our 50,000 views. We appreciate you guys so much for honoring the conversation and honoring the topic. So Dr. Tracy, Dr. Chris, I want to jump in today with question number one, and it's really just about you guys taking the listeners and the watchers back to day one. I want to hear the story from you, Dr. Chris, in particular, if that's okay. Tell me the story of how you guys met and what was it about the two of you that drew you to each other?
Yes, well, we're both musically inclined, so we actually knew each other from summer band camp, and what happens at band camp stays at band camp. So in any case,
all right.
A tuba player. I actually did get a scholarship, probably because I was the only one who applied for the tuba scholarship. And there's not much calling for the Flight of the Bumblebee this day, so I dropped that like some hot cakes. Anyway, and so Dr. Tracy, not only is she an excellent flute player, she also twirled the flag. So she was part of the color guard. So what they did was they put the tubas in the back of the field, and they put the color guard behind the tubas. Well, fortunately for me, Tracy, now the prettier Dr. Tracy, she was stationed behind me, and the other half of the field was doing some, dynamic drills, I'll call it, foot marching and stuff like that, and they just couldn't get it down. And so what ended up happening was I started to talk to her, and she started to talk to me, and then I got enough nerve to invite her to go get my battery serviced at Sears. So that's how old I am, not how old she is, but how old I am, to get a battery done at Sears. And then I splurged on dinner at the local Arby's. So that's how we first got together.
That's amazing, and I will give you so much credit because that is exactly how Dr. Tracy told the story. And so that's incredible. Thank you so much for taking us back down memory lane. We're going to stay there for just a little bit because I'm curious, Dr. Tracy, what was it, besides the battery recharge and Arby's, what was it about Dr. Chris that really just got your attention? What was it about him?
So even to this day, he would give his shirt off his back. We were at this hotel, and the guy's like, "Oh, I like your sunglasses," and he takes them off, and he's like, "Do you want them?" I mean, still to this day, 30 years later. So he would give his shirt off his back. He has such a heart and love for people. That's what attracted me to him, that he loved life and was fun to be around. Yep, still is. Still fun to be around. Not was.
Still fun. All right, wonderful. Dr. Chris, how about you? I mean, obviously the baton, the flag twirling and the caboose, the view. But what was it for you, Dr. Chris? You're like, she's the one. She's the one.
Well, see, not only did it carry over to that, because obviously, as you can tell, I referenced her to the prettier doctor. Not only the outside, but the inside smashed as well as the outside. So we started to set some future goals together, and we ended up graduating from Bloomsburg University, both with a degree in biology and a degree in management. And we didn't know what was going to happen until that one fateful day that, well, I shouldn't say fateful because I don't think we would change a thing. I invited her to dinner to go out. And so I went up to her dorm room, knocked on her door, and here all of a sudden she was bent in half. Well, not knowing what chiropractic did or does at that time, I rushed her to the emergency room. And so in the emergency room, they said, well, we can prescribe you pain pill, muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory, and see what happens. And then they dismissed her. Now, back in the day when we used to write on stone tablets or paper, what it was called at one time, it was paperwork this thick. You sat and waited until the nurse came and got you. Then you go back and sat, in her instance, for the female doctor to come in to check her out. And that was another 45-minute ordeal. So you're sitting there waiting. The nurse comes in, who is supposed to check for vitals. So they used to have a thing called a stethoscope, and they would look in your ears with an otoscope, you know what I'm saying. So they would go through that, breathe in deep, all that kind of stuff. Well, after that prescription, then she was sent home and took the pain pill, muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory, and then a week later, she was still having that same pain. So they rushed her down. I took her down, actually, down to the emergency room. They do what medical doctors still do, is, were you taking your pain pill, muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory? Yes, yes, and yes. Well, there must be something else wrong here. And so they did some further testing. So the further testing was actually an ultrasound. No, she was not pregnant, but what ultrasound did back in the day was look at soft tissues, and the soft tissue they were specifically focusing on were her female ovaries. And so they found a cyst on her ovary, and the medical procedure for that is removal, not of the ovary, but the cyst off the ovary. So they did a bikini cut, and you can imagine a bikini is what they wear at the beach, but they opened her up from hip to hip, opened her up, pulled out the ovary, took off the top, put the ovary back in, and sewed her up. And so they send off the cyst to
Pathology.
pathology, to see if it's cancerous or non-cancerous. And then they did a little bit of physical therapy, make sure she was able to eat, poop, and pee, and then she was able to go home. And so 6 months to the day of the surgery, she ended up with the same issue, bent in half, couldn't straighten up, and instead of rushing her down to the emergency room, we sought alternative medicine, right? So the first place was it was a chiropractor, Dr. Lehau. Kudos to Dr. Lehau. He's still practicing because he was, 21, 22 when he started, right?
24.
But anyway, 24, sorry. Didn't mean to date that. Anyway, so he ended up saying to Dr. Tracy at the time, consulted her, x-rays, and then showed her the x-rays and said, were you ever in a bad car accident because your pelvis is twisted? Tracy said, no, I was never in a car accident, but she sat down on the chair, and lo and behold, she crossed her legs. Well, back in the day, because again, I said we used to write on stone tablets, to be ladylike, they wore dresses and crossed their legs. And so the leg crossing, Dr. Lehau said to her, was causing her issue after all these years. And she's like, well, I did gymnastics, I played softball, and by the way, I was the first female to steal home in my team, all that kind of stuff. But why he said that was it was just that twist, and that hopefully chiropractic could help her. And so got adjusted, and after approximately 6 adjustments, she didn't have that issue anymore. And so that's what sold us into chiropractic, because my care for her, just like she said for people, hooked me into that too as well, meaning we were playing that future, we wanted to have a family together. And so that's what attracted me, not only her looks and her smarts, but also what chiropractic has done.
That's amazing. So you're attributing that story to your desire to go into chiropractic as well?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So she was a chiropractor first, entered school and stuff, and when she was coming to the end, we actually had our first son, Jacob. So, in fact, at chiropractic school at Sherman, and if any of you fellow college mates remember, I held up Jacob in the air with my one hand after being born 3 days before, 4 days before. And
Wow.
so, saying all that was, she was finishing up chiropractic school. I actually went to massage therapy school because we were going to work together and practice. And I said, listen, my hands are starting to hurt. I'm starting to massage a lot more and more people. You're getting people well because you're getting down to the cause of the issue instead of just massaging sore muscles. Now, I know it's more than that, massage therapists. Don't get mad at me. But that's how we kind of came to the conclusion that, hey, we're down here already, let's put you through school. And so not only did I go to chiropractic school, but I went to Home Depot to work as well to make ends meet. And then we started to develop roots there in Spartanburg, South Carolina, actually Drayton, South Carolina, which is hardly recognizable now. But what was very cool is I became a chiropractor as well, too.
That is really cool. And I think you guys went to school for biology. And then if that wasn't hard enough, you continue school in a relationship with whether massage therapy, at Home Depot in there, chiropractic school. Talk about some of the challenges.
Our oldest son. So.
And a child.
And a child. And a child. I remember, Dr. Tracy, you telling me stories about lugging child around with you as a mobile chiropractor, which is incredible. So talk for a second about just kind of those early days and some of the challenges that you guys face and how in the world you guys made it through.
You said it. I mean, really, it was how did we look back at it and how did we do it? We did it. It was the grace of God.
Grace of God, yeah.
I
definitely.
mean, we couldn't have done it without it. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, he would work. He was working 40 hours, going to school so many hours, then turning around, going to Home Depot, coming home, reading my notes, walking up and down the hallway with Jacob so I could get some sleep, and then I was finishing up and graduating, and then became a mobile chiropractor, and then we had another child in that time frame.
Yeah, it was the water this time. It wasn't me necessarily down in the south. So, but just to add on to that too, if it wasn't for Tracy's perseverance and determination to get through, again, we wouldn't be chiropractors as well.
Well, I want to talk more about that because you guys have both had impressive careers. And I'd love to just kind of catch us up to present day because what you guys are doing right now as chiropractors that are married is unprecedented. I don't know anyone else, and I know a lot of chiropractors. I don't know anyone else that has the same dynamic that you guys do. So just take a second and help me understand, what does a day in the life of the Rushes look like these days? Sun up to sundown. Walk me through it.
So he gets up before I do. And he does his quiet time, listens to the Bible, does his prayers, and then I get up and get ready. So by the time I'm getting ready, he's out the door already to either our new practice, his new practice in Delaware or in Maryland. And so with that, we really hardly see each other. People are like, you work
That's
together.
the key.
That's good.
Our office
That's the
in
key.
Maryland is big enough that he has his side, I have my side. We hardly see each other, and we have different office hours as well. And then he's in Delaware 3 days a week. So, and then come home, have dinner together. Yep.
Rehash the day and then just rinse and repeat, as we've heard a lot of people say. However, we do share the common thread of belief in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And He and the Holy Spirit and God have a plan for us, and the plan is to know our why. And so our why is to help those through Christ to get healing, and that happens to be the vehicle of chiropractic for us.
Wow. And it's an incredible story so far, and I don't want to sell the ending short here, but looking at the way you guys came together, it took courage, right, Dr. Chris? You asked her out, and then you pursued her, and what I'm hearing is you guys were willing to do whatever it took to make it work, not only to make the marriage work, but the mission, that God put on your heart to both of you to be chiropractors. and the journey has not been easy from what it sounds like, but you guys have achieved so much and you've helped so many people. Decades later, you're still going at it. What are the things that you would do on top of what you just said? What are some of the things that you guys do to be intentional about continuing to make the marriage work? What are the things that you do daily, weekly, monthly, whatever? What are the healthy habits that you guys implement to stay happily married with all of your ongoings?
What we try to do as a couple is yearly. Go ahead, you can tell them.
We do trips together. I mean, that is key for us. Rather, we're on that trip right now, taking time off to reconnect and rejuvenate our lives.
Yeah, what I was thinking, and sometimes we don't think on the same page. I was trying to give her a softball, but we go to a marriage seminar each year.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
So
okay.
that was the softball. That was the softball I was trying to give to her. But in any case, what I mean by that is just a different perspective. We really aren't in this boat alone. You're married, you have kids as well, and you're just at a different pace along that of life than we are at. Fortunately, with enough grace and forgiveness, that's why we're here right now. And then
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
Woo!
And
Congratulations.
Our boys are doing fantastic too, and they're, again, being married for 30 years. We have a 27 and a 24-year-old.
Man, I mean, I'm just
Can't forget.
Yeah, tell me.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Adeline, 6 months. 6 months.
Our granddaughter from our oldest son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, full house. Full house. Yeah, that's the side of parenting that I'm on right now, is you said 6 months. So 8, 5, 3, and 1. 27 and 24, you have
It'll
learned
happen.
so much.
It'll
And
happen.
we're going to ask lots of questions about parenting on this podcast.
So
For
that's
me,
actually, I want to
selfishly.
give a tip too. Is a lot of people say in our chiropractic practice, and sometimes we are not psychologists, but they'll offer advice to us. So we've heard different walks of advice and stuff like that. And I think with them going ahead of us and giving us advice on how to be good parents and grandparents, having a strong family structure as well around us, meaning parents. That's why we are, again, here we are today, because we
gleaned it off.
We gleaned,
off
we
of
listened
others.
to that advice, and there's a difference when you know the way and then doing the way. So,
Wow. And undoubtedly,
yeah, and that's not from Star Wars either. So knowing the way and doing the way.
that was Dr. Chris first. Okay. Got it. So you guys are willing to learn. You're humble, and I think that is, from my few years of marriage, I feel like that's when we've been best set up for success, is when we're willing to learn from each other. Sometimes the hardest people to learn from are the people that you're closest to. And so I want to put you guys on the spot for a second. And Dr. Tracy, we're going to let you go first here, but I just want to hear, what are some of the greatest insights that you feel like you've learned from your spouse along the way? And it could be chiropractic care related, it could be life related, but what do you feel like are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from your other half?
So a lot of times I'm a type A personality. No, imagine that. No. And so I want to make things happen. And when they don't happen the way I like them, Chris will just remind me, and he'll just say, let the chips fall where they may. Let the process lay out. Just let the process unfold. Let it unfold. So I got to take a step back, the 40,000 mile view, and then can bring it down because I'm the detail person. So definitely taking a step back, breathing, trusting God. He has shown me we got to continue to trust Him.
All right, Dr. Chris.
Oh yeah, not Tracy's perfect in all ways, and I don't mean that facetiously or anything like that. But I have to see her through God's eyes. Give her plenty of grace and plenty of forgiveness as well, and just keep going forward. I do treat her as an equal. I don't treat her as anything different, as in chiropractic, meaning I'm the better doctor. Everyone knows that she's the better doctor. And so, again, just loving on her as best as I can.
That's awesome. I'm sure that you guys have had opportunities to work with patients together, or at least, at the end of the day, you come home and you're talking, you're talking, doc to doc. about what do I do? I'm in this situation with this patient, or I don't know if you guys have conversations like that, but I would be curious to know if there's a story that you could share of maybe a breakthrough that you had with a patient working together. It's a unique thing. I think a lot of docs go home and they're talking another language to their spouse when it comes to chiropractic, at least as far as maybe how to help a specific individual. Do you have a story you could share, something like that?
We'll just start off. A few weeks ago, I have a patient that is truly my patient. She just wants to see me and so forth. So she was going to me, well, I have this young family member who has a son, and the son is considering surgery, meaning the family's considering surgery for the scoliosis that he has. And I said, well, thank you, and I'm flattered. And I said, the better expert would be Dr. Tracy at this, because she has a passion for families and for children. So what we're going to do is we're going to set him up with an appointment with Dr. Tracy. And then...
So this child is 12, and he was in a car accident when he was 6, so head on, mother was hit head on with a tractor trailer, door was in the mother's leg. I mean, crazy stuff. And he was in a booster seat, but that impact, the booster seat or the belt, got him in the middle. And actually, he had like 6 inches of his intestine removed at 6 years old. Yeah.
Goodness.
So since then, he's had back problems. He's 12. So 6 years later, plus all the issues in his stomach and in his gut. So he had been through the gamut, the medical gamut, and they did MRIs, multiple MRIs, and watched over the years how his back has deteriorated. And they said, you have scoliosis. And he was weeks away from back surgery, fusion of a 12-year-old spine. He's still growing. So I showed the x-rays, and I showed Dr. Chris as well, and I'm like, look at this. I mean, yes, you could see the scoliosis, but it was more the side view. Instead of the curve going this way, his lumbar curve was the opposite way. And so because, again, that impact that happened, and of course the nerves here, where do they affect?
The organs up front.
The intestines. And 12 years old, so his sex organs, his digestion, all of that's going to be affected. So I showed her a patient who had had back surgery years later, and said, "This is what they're going to do to your son. This is what they're going to do." I'm like, least invasive to most invasive. She agreed, got him adjusted instantly.
How did he do? Yeah.
He felt the difference. He was able to bend left and right. He was able to touch his toes.
Where he was unable to do that before.
Wow.
And he's like 12 years old. He's like, wow, I just bent. I called that evening. No more pain. Not that we're treating pain, but no more pain. 6 years he's been dealing with this. And so that we collaborated on that. And yeah.
That's incredible.
And one more thing too. So it was interesting, and it's happened pretty much almost every year too at our practice, where if I have a young female and I adjust her, many of them were saying, Dr. Chris, you helped me get pregnant. I was like, what are you talking about? And it's the power of the adjustment, meaning the chiropractic, freeing up the nerves from the brain down to those organs as well, her body. And so always I would get the younger female pregnant through chiropractic, and then Tracy would take care of
the
pregnancy. So, yeah.
I've heard that before. And it's just as funny the second time. But It is amazing. And I will attest, I have gotten to sit down and get so many stories of young women who were unable to conceive, and they couldn't figure out what. They tried several things until they found chiropractic, which also encouraged some healthy habits in a lot of the cases. But for the most part, they got adjusted, they got pregnant. And it was like years and years and years up until meeting with the chiropractor, and then months. And I love that story. And I think if nothing speaks to the power of chiropractic, I think that's an incredible story. So, and I'm glad you guys work well together. and that Dr. Chris, you get them pregnant. Dr. Tracy, you raise them up.
Well, and the
You
other
guys are
thing
incredible.
too is we have had not one mother come back to me ask for me for college financial assistance. So
That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah. um, when I think about going home to my wife, there are many days where I don't know whether or not to not talk about work or just talk about it because it's what I want to talk about. And I know a lot of couples have rules when you walk in the house, and I bring that up as an example. You guys are both, you're not just chiropractors, you're both on mission, and you're both very passionate about what you do, and it happens to be the same thing. My question is, how difficult is it for you guys to, I know balance is a myth, but how difficult is it to manage work, life, rest, fun, family, on the clock, off the clock, and how in the world do you guys do that together well?
So in the beginning, it was difficult because I would be bringing work home. I'd be doing files. I'd be looking at X-rays. I'd be bringing it home. We've gotten it to a better place. So we'll be like, "Can I talk to you about this patient? Can I discuss the highlight of the day?" Or so we ask each other permission. Is it okay to do that? So it's not intermingling. Like work is coming home with us. I don't bring work home anymore. Majority of time I don't bring work. He doesn't bring work home. I still.
Yeah, I because I
and like she said too, Matt, is that we ask for permission, we try to get it out, and then it's like enough's enough, and this is the ending time, and so let's go on to do whatever we need to do to unwind.
and I think people would relate with this if it was the case. But for you guys, is it like I just don't want to talk about it, or is it like I think we need to stop talking about work and try to talk about something else? What is that
So
for you
remember,
guys?
we've
Is
been
that what
doing
it
this
is?
for 23 years, and I wish I could say it was a cookie cutter. Yes, and it's not. But again, we know when to ask and probe because we've been married for so long, and when to back off as well, and just, just and, instead of trying to fix the world, like I said, is just let it unfold and see what happens. Because again, when mom and dad's half cells came together to form us, there's no human intervention in that. And even though my hair is darker than her hair, the hair's still in the same place. Her eyes are in the same place. So we just have to trust that innate wisdom, not only inside of us but outside in that universe. To, even though it seems chaotic, it's still, there's a purpose, there's an organization behind it, and really I think it just strives to do better, to be better, to sustain life.
That's a really cool picture that you just put in my brain that I'm going to hold on to. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm
That was my
fascinated with.
only good idea for the year, so get it.
Well, we got it on camera,
Yeah.
so it will live forever. This is fantastic. Well, I have enjoyed this, the personal, the professional, the way you guys treat each other and learn from each other and honor each other. It's a beautiful thing, and you guys are a bright, shining example of what it could look like. 'Cause I'm sure that we'll see more folks, in this situation where you're like I said before we got on the call, partners in crime, partners in chiropractic, partners in life. It's just such a rare find, and to see it look this beautiful, I think is pretty incredible. So before we sign off, we got to go to the hot seat. But before we
Well,
get there,
one
Dr. Chris,
question
what you
though.
got?
So you were saying hot seat questions. So every one of my patients goes, Dr. Chris, why aren't you on with Dr. Tracy, on these podcasts and stuff? And I said, I got real good wisdom from one of our mentors, Dr. Owen. And he said to me, Chris, you got to put the prettier doctor on the camera, on the advertisement, on everything. And so because she is going to bring them into your office, and then she can be your spokesperson for the practice. Now, it only took me 23 years to get out here and on the podcast, right, or out into advertisement, or about a year ago into my own practice. So, the training wheels are coming off. Maybe we'll see me a little bit more, but that's the real reason why we put Dr. Tracy out in front of the camera. And that's why she does a lot of speaking engagements, not only for chiropractic, but also for nutrition.
Well, I have enjoyed you being a part of this one. I was told early on in life a lot, Matt, you have a face for radio. And so I started brushing my hair a little bit, try to look as good as I can. We do what we can, Dr. Chris. But let's jump in. Let's jump in the hot seat. I think we can, tie a bow on this one in a couple of minutes. These are fast questions. Dr. Tracy knows how to play this game. Dr. Chris, short answers. We try not to give too much time to expound because we want to keep it hot. But we're going to run through this, and you guys both have to answer these questions. So, Dr. Tracy, ladies first with all these, and we'll get right into it and then right to the next. Here we go. Question number 1. Favorite way to relax after a long day?
For me, being at the beach. I just love the beach.
I thought it was only supposed to be one word. Anyway,
Beach.
so actually, I chill upstairs, and I have one of our cats who I don't like, but like me a ton, sit right next to me, and I pet. So I figure how I'm going to rule the world,
Yeah. If that's relaxing for you, to each his own. That's fantastic. All right, go-to meal when you're too tired to cook. Arby's.
No.
Yeah.
I said salad. He's like, no.
Nothing great happens over salad.
I feel like you still have to cook it. Yeah.
Yes.
But I said salad.
Oh, so
That's what she
salad,
said. All right.
I am.
Yeah, so honestly, it's probably some sort of keto product, whether it's a meat product or something to that effect.
Okay, I'll give you that. All right, dream vacation destination, and it can't be somewhere you've been before. I didn't put that caveat in there, but I'm doing it now.
The curve of all curves.
Yes. Scotland.
Yeah, she wants to go back to her home roots. Honestly, we were talking about Germany as well, my son and I. Again, just not because of roots, just a cool culture to go visit.
I agree. I think both those places would be awesome. I have a Scottish accent with my kids, but it's not ready for the podcast yet, or else I would have unleashed it just now. But Scotland and Germany, love it. My sister-in-law was.
You only have your T-shirt and your kilt on is underneath the camera.
That's right. But hey, you got to see this shirt. This is my chiropractor.
Oh
Locally adjusted.
Yeah.
South Carolina, go!
Yeah, got to let the people know. So, all right, here we go. Favorite book or movie?
Ooh, so favorite book is the Bible. My favorite movie is Enchanted.
Yeah,
Enchanted.
likewise,
Dr. Chris
Bible,
loves when you sing. I love it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
likewise, the Bible for me as well.
All right.
I prefer listening to it than reading it, and but again, I still read it at church and I read it at home. But listening's my favorite because of that drive between my house and up to the Delaware practice, for example. Favorite movie?
Yeah.
I know we were talking about this too as well, and I do watch movies, but I don't.
It's hot. The seat's
I'm not
hot.
supposed to think, so let's go with the Spider-Man franchise. So, and I can elaborate on it, but it was No Way Home.
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, my son has everything Spider-Man, so I'm with you 100% on that. All right, last question here before we wrap it up is one word to describe your partner. Got one word.
Go first.
Oh, beautiful.
Loving.
I love it. You guys are great. Y'all are so good at this. Y'all are so good. All right, last question. Best piece of advice you would give or that you have received. How about that? Best piece of advice you have received about maintaining a healthy and happy relationship. Best piece of advice that you've received about maintaining a healthy and happy relationship over the years. What is it?
Forgive quickly.
Yeah, that definitely grace and forgiveness. And honestly, too, we just heard this in the last marriage seminar, is our relationship with Christ is
That's
most
number one.
important, and then everything will fall into place.
Love that. I'm gonna ask our listeners out there that if you're with us at this point, thank you for staying for this fun conversation. But what advice would you have, or what advice have you been given when it comes to healthy and happy relationships? Hook us up in the comments below. Also, if you want to have Dr. Chris back on the podcast ASAP, let us know in the comments how much you enjoyed him. They were willing to
Thumbs
join us
up.
on vacation in Orlando. That means a lot to me as I enjoy this conversation, but I know it means a lot to our viewers as well. So thank you, Dr. Chris and Dr. Tracy. Any final thoughts before we shut this thing down?
No, thank you. Thank
Yes,
you
thank
for all
you.
that are watching.
Thanks.
Put them,
Yes.
put
Thanks
them
for
on the
joining
spot.
me in my grand opening podcast. So I appreciate that.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal, Dr. Chris. So this one will go down. This one will go down in the books. So thank you,
More
guys.
thumbs up. I'll be back.
Have a wonderful Olympic experience, everybody out there who's watching on the TVs. And stay a part of this conversation. We will be back very soon. You guys take care, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Blessings.
God bless.